this program,
Right.
and we just finished around 15 minutes back, and it
Okay.
was quite interactive with Dean Sudarshan and Rajiv Malhotra.
Acha, acha,
And
acha, acha, acha.
I would request students to be more interactive, more open, and be extrovert, and you can ask as many questions as you can. So I would like to introduce Professor Sandeep Dikshit. Uh, Professor Sandeep Dikshit has been involved in public policy and grassroots governance for more than 25 years, with many years of field-based work with the voluntary agencies and NGOs as member of parliament, human development researcher, and as a teacher. He has spent nearly 15 years in the field with the action research studies in northern, central, and western India, primarily in Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Chhattisgarh. These years have given him immense and intensive field experience and knowledge of challenges that India is facing right now, especially in the area of agriculture, rural non-reform sector, and urban development sector. He has worked for over 20 years in public policy directly with the state governments in writing state human development reports. He led the team that pioneered the world's first subnational SDR of Madhya Pradesh in 1995. He has since then written over 8 human development reports. Out of them, 5 were for Madhya Pradesh and for Punjab, Chhattisgarh, and Bundelkhand. His work in public policy has also involved planning and research work on income and employment, social sectors, poverty reduction, and urban governance. Professor Sandeep Dikshit has more than 10 years of experience in mass politics, elected for 2 consecutive terms from 2004 to 2014 to the Lok Sabha from East Delhi area. He was the chief whip of Indian National Congress Party from 2012 to 2014. Professor Sandeep headed the research cell for the Indian National Congress and is also the national spokesperson of the party. Now, I would request Professor Sandeep to take over and address the students who are eagerly waiting to hear you.
Thank you, Hemanji. How many are there? Any
10.
idea? Okay.
10. It's a batch
Actually,
of 10
because
students.
in my people's column, it's not showing anybody.
Neither in mine. Money will know.
Maniji,
So
are people
it
there?
is the IT bug that comes in. So
Acha, acha, okay.
you have to
Okay.
restart your MS Teams and then it will show you the participants list.
So should I just take us 20 seconds and restart it?
Yes, sir.
You can
Okay,
start. They
okay.
can hear you, I think.
Otherwise, I can tell you we have Lakshay, Mansi,
No, that's okay.
Jayaprakash.
No. Manimalaji, I'm fine. I just didn't see anybody, so I wasn't sure. That's okay. So let's start.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Apparently, from what Hemanji is saying, we probably had a very good session this morning. And I would assume that, perhaps some of what I'm planning to say may have also been discussed in some measure or the other in the morning. So what I will do is actually not take too much of your time, maybe take about 10-15 minutes to just give some ideas or some of my thoughts on the topic that I have that is in front of us, which is how to make a difference in public life and or with private enterprise, with the subject all of you are planning to pursue, which is MA Economics, the course on MA Economics. And maybe spend 10-15 minutes of a general discussion from me, and then get into getting your queries, your views, and just get into a discussion with all of you. All of you are, in any case, postgraduate students, so I don't think there's much in terms of a general discussion that we can tell you, but and so all of you would frankly know what economics is all about. But still, just a few lines I just want to elaborate with regard to what is it that MA Economics would bring to the table for everybody, especially if they engage with public life as well as with private enterprise. I think all of you have studied for 3-4 years economics and would be aware that, it is a discipline that kind of touches, people and touches life and touches, places we live in kind of multiple ways. Most importantly being the issue of livelihood. And while livelihood is a term that encompasses lots of things, we are talking of mainly issues of employment and sustaining of life. And I think economics is one of the core disciplines that makes us understand that. It builds an understanding of how an economy works with, sustains life, sustains social formations, which is communities and nations. and also brings about an understanding of the means to bring about desirable transformations, or to buttress yourself against challenges that may be coming in, how to look at potential and to exploit potential for the better of humankind, or your region, or yourself, or your institution, or the organization you're working with. Uh, in a very substantial manner, economics does that. Of course, over time, we've all come to understand that one subject by itself is not adequate to address all the various complexities of life, the challenges and the potential, and therefore a line of interdisciplinarity is coming in. Economics has enriched itself by being much more open now than perhaps what it was many years ago, and therefore it's also looking at many other trends. The discipline and the understanding of education is also of economics is also now tackling with many other fields. It looks at institutions, it looks at society, it looks at human behavior, it looks at environment, etc., etc. I'm sure all of you are pretty well aware of that. With regard to how is it that MA Economics would really be able to contribute in public life and private enterprise? One is, as I said, because you will be in Masters of Economics, you've already engaged a little bit in Bachelors of Economics. MA in Economics gives you a far more, in-depth understanding, both the theoretical foundations of economics as well as its practical aspects, your analytical skills, both quantitative as well as otherwise. It brings you a much greater understanding, and it will give you a scope for specialization. And as all of you know, as in any other subject, so also in economics, with the kind of complexities that are coming in, some form of specialization in the areas you like or you're good at, then makes you that much more capable of handling it. And economics is as huge a subject, or perhaps huger than most other subjects. So the range of areas in which you need to learn more is that much more. So MA Economics will open up those possibilities in front of you and then enable you to get a little more specialization or much more specialization, depending on what are the kind of subjects you get offered, what are the electives you get offered and take on, and where your interests take you. So as I said, in that sense, it's different from, it's a build-up to, but a much more substantive build-up to what you learned in Bachelors of Economics. And therefore, all the important things that economics teaches with regard to what are lives, what are livelihoods, how does an economy function, work, what are its trends coming in, where will the dangers come, where will the potential come, you learn that in a far more substantial manner. Another very important thing that economics teaches us is how to best use our limited means. In fact, I think I'm not an economist, but whatever little I remember from my microeconomics classes in the subjects the subsidiary subjects I've done in economics, is that one of the foundations of economics is that you believe that resources are limited, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And therefore, economics to very, very large extent tells you how to work with limited means, how to balance them out, look at the complexities of life, the rising uncertainties and vulnerabilities that are coming in, and keeping all these in mind, what would be the most efficient and effective manner to achieve, or at least strive to achieve, the goals where you would like to go towards. And in that, it is equally applicable to public life, where it could be a government, it could be an institution, it could be an enterprise in planning, it could be an economic activity, it could be a taxation activity, it could be looking after a place of a district or a state, and it's also equally applicable to private enterprises. Industries, corporations, industrial sectors are increasingly linked with the entire economics, and with especially complexities and globalization happening, what happens far away in a distant place can start affecting your enterprises here. Goods and services are being traded right across the border, and if you don't have these kind of understanding, especially large private enterprises and corporations find themselves in trouble if they don't understand the world of economics and what's happening. So while BA would give you some kind of a on surface idea of all this, I think MA Economics will ground you much more in the kind of things that I'm talking about, and therefore it becomes, I think, as people who are useful to people in public life and private enterprise, MA Economics is a far more effective and necessary subject to go across. The other thing is that the MA program that JSGP has developed has two elements. One is because it's a new course; it's starting for the first time, and we have a faculty which has developed a curriculum with a global perspective, especially because almost all our faculty is internationally trained. It's full time. There are lots of young people as well as some seniors guiding it, and therefore they have looked at the course because they've designed it anew with what all is happening both within our nation as well as in the international boundaries that affect us, as well as the globe, because economy is becoming fairly global now. Second thing is it concentrates on the kind of research and skills necessary in the market for economics today. So your faculty brings in a perspective, their understanding of where is it that economics is getting more and more useful, where people are looking, what kind of skills people are looking at economics, postgraduate people, and bringing that into a curriculum that they have right now designed. The third very important thing is because it is housed in the School of Government and Policy, which engages with public policy, right? The practical applications and insights that come from the rest of the faculty and for being in the public policy school adds to the to the knowledge pool that students would touch upon. So you would not be reading economics in isolation, but in an environment of public policy. And therefore, just as economics itself affects, as well as it's necessary to understand what's happening in that when you are engaging both at institutions involved with public welfare or people, as well as with private enterprises, so also is public policy. In a sense, it's a very, very neat fix, and it's a very happy fit with each other. So I would think that the new economics course is something that's exciting. It's looking at both what is necessary for people in masters in economics to look at, but it's also scratching new surfaces. I think much more you probably would have got to know in the morning session. But to me, I think the people who would do the master's course would be people who would develop skills that are, I think, fairly amazing. And I'm saying this with a lot of confidence. And it's not just a spiel. I think I personally feel that. I've seen some of the courses you've gone through. So I think you'll be entering into a very, very exciting course. It's a course that is drawn from a large number of very good people whose understanding of economics and policy is very high. Their understanding of what is going to be the demand on people knowing economics in the coming 8, 10, 15, 20 years. I can't say more than that because, things change very fast these days. But I think you will come up with people whose abilities would be sought after and known. Rest is, of course, how well you take this course. And I think the fact that you will be in the School of Public Policy will be two ways. Since you are postgraduate students, I think you will add to the to what all we know in the School of Public Policy. Perhaps we'll try and use you as interns and people who will help us in some of our course curriculum. I hope that happens. Rajiv ji has just joined, and I think you have a really fantastic person heading this, directing this course. And I'm really glad that you'll be able to work under and study under him. So you will be able to add to public policy. And I think some of us who are not really economists will perhaps in some way or the other, because, it's a common school, we'll meet each other, there'll be lots of common activities that will be going on. Perhaps, whatever little economics may not be able to tell you, some of us with our own skill sets perhaps may be able to add to your capabilities and your skills. But I thought in very short, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. And now I'll request Rajiv ji, in case you want to add on to what I've said, and then we'll take on your queries and questions.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. I'm first of all sorry I joined in a bit late. I wanted to take a quick shower in between the two talks, and it took a little while. So I did miss part of what you said initially, and I think what I heard of what you said towards the end, I think you have pretty much covered everything. All I would like to say is, in terms of future career opportunities, there is no area where economics does not touch. No aspect of life which economics does not touch. So if you get your concepts right, you could apply it in so many different ways and find opportunities to do new things and add value to yourself and to the society at large. I would not take much time now, but maybe I will chip in as we hear questions, one specific questions. There are other faculty members also who are going to teach you in the first term who are online, and I'll request if any of those would like to chip in and add something to what has already been said in this session. I can see Shubran, Shivangi, Manini. Maybe just introduce yourself, and you will have an occasion to listen to them in more detail in the coming sessions of the Prestige program. So I'm just throwing the floor open to some of other colleagues who are going to teach you in this coming semester. Would they like to introduce themselves and say a few words?
We can start with Lakshay again, sir.
No, I was giving some opportunity for faculty members who are also part of this conversation, part of this discussion, to come in first, and then we can go to the students.
So we have Bhuvna here who have joined us. So
yes,
Bhuvna...
all of them are there. I can see Shivangi, Subran, Manani, Sonali, Debajit. Would you like to say something and introduce yourself before we open up the floor for students to ask their questions?
They have not joined in, sir. They are in the invitees list. Only Bhuvna is
joined. List. Oh, I'm sorry
yes.
Then. I'm so sorry. Okay, in which case, let's have a more interactive discussion. I think you'll have more occasions to listen to each one of us in the coming days. Let's use today's opportunity to clarify some of your doubts. So the floor is open. We could take the first person on the list, Lakshay. Lakshay, you want to ask anything? Comment? Lakshay, Manasi, any of you? Okay, Lakshay is, I think, coming online. Okay, let's go to the next person, Manasi.
Sir, is it Manasi Jayaprakash or
yes,
the other Manasi?
Yes, Manasi, could switch on your video and ask.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I look a bit scruffy.
Yes, no, it's all right.
So, sir, just wanted to know about the course plan, about what our first semester would look like. Since everything's going to be virtual, will there be opportunities to join clubs or associations, or what's it going to look like from an online schooling point of view?
Right. It's a good question, because some of the usual things that we would have rolled out in the first week, normally we would start with an induction program. We would start with physical kind of contact classes where the faculty introduces themselves and tell a little bit about what they were going to do in the ensuing semesters. But that is partly being addressed in this Prestige program. However, there is one aspect of our breaking in, so to say, of you people who join the campus, which we will, I think, still go ahead with, and that's our buddy program, where you are linked with some seniors who would help you see the ropes, so to say, and make you feel comfortable on the campus. So that, I think, would be in place, and that can happen even virtually. It doesn't have to happen in the physical sense. In addition to that, yes, there would be information. We have student bodies in all the schools, and then we have a umbrella body for the whole university, and they would share information with you about the various clubs and activities that are the usual part of life at the campus. but the true sense of appreciation and participation in some of these activities would happen only when you are on the campus. In addition to that, we also within our school have a mentorship program where each one of you, all the new students, the new cohort, whether it is at BA level or is at a MA level, are assigned to one faculty member. So there will be 4 or 5 of you with one faculty member, depending upon the total numbers. And the idea behind this mentorship program is to provide you with the opportunity of one-on-one engagement and guidance, seeking guidance from the faculty concerned, not only about your courses, not only about your academic progression, but also other things that are part of the student life at the campus. Apart from this, I guess initially it is now kind of certain that we are going to have an online initiation of the semester, but we are trying to also upgrade our infrastructure so as to make your learning experience as close to what it would be in a physical context. So, for example, you would recall Dean Sudarshan was mentioning in the earlier talk that we now have the possibility of, doing real-time diagrams on the board, even as we are giving our lectures. Now, in economics, that is very important. Economics as a discipline has something very unique about it, that you can visualize what you are learning. You can concretize that further by using and looking at data and using analytical skills that help you work with data. So the fact that we are going to have a whiteboard option even as we are giving online lectures and not just simply making use of PPTs would in some sense overcome some of the disadvantage that a virtual session has against a physical one. I'll stop there as we move forward, even in the prestige program, in the course of the other lectures, you will get more and more of information which will help you kind of get started in as normal a frame of mind as the circumstances, the current circumstances permit.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much.
Sandeep, do you want to add something?
Next, we can take Fanny Datta.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, so I don't have any questions. I had the one question that I asked in the earlier session. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay, good. Good. We can go over to the...
Pranavi Singh.
I also don't have any specific question like related to the how the course is going to be conducted, but I had a doubt in the like what would we be learning in the computer tools for economic analysis, and that is for the first semester. So what are the like components of it? If you could explain it? Or
I am not fully versed with exactly the course content of that particular course, but the idea behind these courses is to acquaint you with some softwares which are critical for data analysis. Now, how does that normally in the normal course of things, we have a lab. We have a lab where we conduct these classes where the programming is taught, and you are expected to learn it and practice it with real data. And there are group exercises, there are individual exercises which help you acquire those skills. Now, I must confess that I don't know how is it going to pan out. I know that this is one of the courses that you're going to do in the first semester, but perhaps what might happen is that The theoretical part of that course could be taught in the normal manner through the web lectures. And perhaps what I anticipate is some specific exercises would be designed by the course instructor, which will help you practice those concepts that are taught at a conceptual theoretical level. So, but this is an important course. And I think if you compare our program with some of the other master's level programs, this is also something relatively new. I mean, I'm sure that some programs are giving attention to building up analytical data analytics and skills related in that domain right in the beginning. But we thought that it would be good for you to pick up some of these skills early on in your course, so that you acquire a sufficient level of proficiency by the time you come down to the last semester, which is when you have to write a thesis. So you're aware that unlike other master's program, we have a thesis which is compulsory. And the only option in exceptional cases would be that you could, instead of not writing a thesis, you could thank you for putting it up. Money, I think you have put it up on the. She's sharing the screen, which outlines the course content of this program. In fact, the gentleman who's going to teach it, the faculty who's going to teach us, is going to join us very shortly. So I haven't had an occasion to actually sit down with him and or learn a little more about how it is going to be taught. So coming back to the point I left unfinished. So the idea is to make you acquainted with the skills that would help you in your thesis. And most of you would end up writing thesis. So that's the thinking behind introducing this course right up front. And you have it on your screens as to how this course is supposed to pan out. A lot of it can be done in the absence of a lab environment. So the theoretical and the conceptual part would be done up front, and then we will see how things pan out and what needs to be done by way of enhancing the learning experience on this course.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Sandeep ji, feel free to jump in whenever you need to add anything that is being responded to.
Yeah, sure, sir. I'll do that.
Next, we can have Shubham Toki.
Yes, Shubham, please come on the.
So good afternoon, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are. You're visible and audible. Go ahead, shoot your question.
So, sir, I just wanted to ask, since these are COVID times and the policy regarding the COVID is generally driven by data and numbers, so I wanted to ask that this particular paper would be more of theory or a mix of theory plus stats and maths?
Which paper? The paper on programming, which we were just talking about?
No, sir, about public policy.
We don't have a public policy paper in the first term for MA economics. The discussion about public policy happened because this MA program is located in the School of Government and Public Policy. So I actually do not understand your question. Perhaps you need to rephrase it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because what we are discussing is what I was discussing in response to the previous question was the course outline for the one of the courses in your first semester, a course on programming. And in terms of public policy options, well, you will have an opportunity to pursue some of the issues through electives that you will be able to choose in in semester 3 and in semester 4. And the fact that we are housed in the School of Government and Public Policy gives you opportunity to link up with the events, issues that are being discussed elsewhere in the school, which have a more direct link with the topical policy issues. Then, if I have understood you well enough, then maybe I could also add that issues like COVID-19, the impact on the economy, the consequences this pandemic has for looking at our health policy, the implication it has for our education. Education has got disrupted. There are countries which are simply canceling the academic session, and they're giving a kind of a gap year. I was reading this morning about some countries in Africa, but many of these issues would be issues that would be of interest for faculty and for other researchers. And I'm sure in due course, as more and more information and data becomes available on how things have panned out and how right now a lot of policy action is happening on anecdotal or basis or in terms of thumb rules. But as we go further and some data starts becoming available, I'm sure there will be a rethink on many of the issues, many of the policy responses that have been taken by the government, and there'll be occasion to discuss them in the context of things that you are learning in your courses. So I'll leave it at that, but if you haven't got the response that you were looking for, rephrase your question and I'll be happy to.
No, sir, I was just asking in that particular case only that when we have got some certain electives, so can we progress in that, in what terms, and how can we manage ourselves from right now so we can prepare it for future?
I won't encourage you to start looking too much into the future in terms of your electives. Yes, you need to know your interests, you need to pursue those, and in that sense you need to already perhaps identify some of the electives. But I think in terms of your preparation right now, the focus should be to take the next few months and the next 2 terms to revisit your conceptual foundations in the main theoretical papers that you are, the core papers that have been listed in your curriculum. Focus a little bit on mathematics and statistics if that happens to be a bit of a weak spot for you, so that you can use that language well in understanding and applying the concepts you study, for example, in micro, in macro, in other core subjects that you will be exposed to in the course of your second term. So focus on that, and rather than looking at electives. And also what will happen is, as you get going with your course and as you get opportunity to discuss your own interests, your own thinking about your future career moves, you will get some guidance, you'll get some more information as you get into that discussion with your peer, with your faculty supervisors, mentors, and that may make you look at things that you perhaps haven't looked at currently. So I think take a kind of a sequential step-by-step approach, and look at strengthening your weak spots from what your experience has been at undergrad level, and build on that, and then explore some of these other areas. Of course, you'll have options to take certain electives which are being offered for the MA public policy program. So there'll be a fair number of elective choices that you could exercise your option from. And we are also recruiting a few more faculty members. so that we could also get some of the state-of-art developments in the subject stream, in the domain of economics, available to you should you choose to look in that direction.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Money, who's next?
Lakshay Singhal.
Yes, Lakshay.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, it is good afternoon, Lakshay.
Sir, I have a question
Yes.
regarding second year electives. Sir, will there be a specialization in second year, or it will be a more of journal?
No, the second year has perhaps one option for an elective, but I'm not too sure. Maybe the electives kick in only in the third semester. So which is second year? Sorry, I was looking at it in terms of semesters and not years. So yes, in second years, you will have an option to take some electives. I think 2 electives from within the school, and you have an option of taking 1 elective from any school in the university, provided your mentor agrees with your choice and he or she feels that that would make you a better economist. So it is not a unconstrained choice exercise on your part in choosing your electives. There is a bit of a constraint attached, and the constraint is that you should take on board whatever guidance your mentor is giving in that regard. So I think there are in all 8 electives over the 2 years. If I'm correct, I'm jumbled up with these figures in my mind, or 6. Maybe there are 6 electives you can choose over the 2 terms in the second year. And as I said in response to the prior question, in the earlier question, you can take electives, a certain number of electives from outside your program, from outside your school as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Simran.
Hello.
Yes, Simran.
Good
Yes,
afternoon, sir.
good afternoon. How are you this afternoon?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you.
Sir, I don't have any more questions as such, because the one question I had, I did ask earlier in the earlier section. But I think that's about it.
Okay, good. In which case, we'll just move on, and we look forward to engaging with you subsequently.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I do too.
Yeah.
Tanya Agarwal.
Good
Tanya,
afternoon,
maybe-
sir.
Hi, Tanya. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sir, my question is about econometrics and statistics, that they both require some softwares from which we have to learn. So how will we be able to learn it online?
Well, that's what I was trying to answer in response to one of the first questions. In the normal circumstances, you would have been sitting in a lab where we conduct these classes. But I'm sure that there will be a way to go about doing it. And if you need to practice on a software, you would be given access to that software. And in that case, but there's always a part of the theoretical and conceptual learning which precedes the practical application of these softwares. So that will go perhaps as usual. And I was mentioning earlier that I think Dean Sudarshan mentioned it in the morning talk, that we are going to equip ourselves with sufficient technology to be able to use a whiteboard even as we are speaking virtually through a web connection. So we are trying to make the learning experience as close to what it would be in a physical context. But if there are certain kind of constraints in providing you access to some of the software programs in a virtual world, or in terms of the practical applications, I'm sure we will find, and the concerned instructor would find a way to cover up some of that ground subsequently. And I'm actually not hoping that we will have only virtual classes. At some point of time, we should have you in the classroom setting, and that's what is our preferred course of teaching to you.
Thank you, sir.
Then last we have the Advitya, I think. His name is not there.
The unknown user is Amulya, I think.
Amulya. Yeah.
I have had the opportunity to talk to all of them. So do you have any question? Okay.
No, sir. I don't have a question. No question right now.
And did I get your name right?
Yes, sir. It's Amulya only.
Okay, all right. Great. I think if there are no other questions, maybe Sandeep ji could have some parting words, and we would bring the session to a close so that all of you can go in a timely manner and exercise your right to food.
Thanks, Rajiv. I don't really have anything to sum up. I was just keenly listening to the queries that most of the students had, and it's refreshing to know that they've gone through the courses. They know what they're talking about. So I think that's good. And I think all the people who will be teaching them in the coming years in MA Economics, I think you have a very reflective and a very dynamic group of students. So congratulations for that. And to all the students, welcome to Jindal. Just one point on the very first question that was asked as to how would we be able to replicate the real life experience of the campus on web. I mean, Rajiv ji had mentioned a few points with regard to what is it that the university is trying to do to give you some experience of meeting the others. The other is, I think the university is also very keen to see when is it that we could open up the campus. A lot will depend on what the Government of India's policy will be. And since we are a university under the Haryana Government's Act, what the Haryana government would be thinking about. So opening up the campus is not really in our hands, but we hope that we'll try and do that as soon as possible, because I think it's also everybody's desire that while web classes teach you a lot, and our faculty will ably stand up to all the challenges of web teaching and try and see that you don't really miss out all that you can learn in a class when you are taught physically. I think we'll try and see that we can bring you back on campus as soon as possible. The campus has, somebody was asking about what are the other clubs and what are the other activities that happen. It's a fairly happening university. I mean, to borrow a term from the generation of students, it is a happening university. I mean, I was quite overwhelmed when I first came into this university to see what is the kind of activity that is happening. So I would say look forward to an exciting time here. And I hope you people, while you probably miss a large part of the first semester, hopefully you'll get some part this semester and maybe almost all of your other 3 semesters on campus. So I would say look forward to a good time and engage yourselves as much as you do with academics in all the other activities that the university will be able to offer to you. So thanks a lot. And thanks, Rajiv ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep ji. And I take your leave now and see you all on Monday when I would be giving the next talk for the MA program in economics.
Right.
Have a great weekend and bye-bye. Thank you, Mani.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us, Professor Dikshit and Professor Mohta. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rajiv.
sir.
Thank you,
Bye.
students. All the very best.